Come on by and have a bite at the Crossroad Diner, where your spirit goes when it might be time to change direction. Hey everybody, it's Thursday again. We're in the Crossroad Diner, and waving at you and making eyes is Michelle Hoffmann. She is a relationship gal, and she can help you with your relationships. So as a result, she has been listening to people who live in the Crossroad Diner. She knows those stories. She's been there herself. Welcome, Michelle, to the Crossroad Diner.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I am so happy to be here and to share this time for us together.
That's great. Yeah, me too. So you can't see it, but she's got, tell me the name of your puppy down there, your dog.
So I have a Dalmatian, and her name is Pixel, and she's practically in my lap here.
Yeah, I see her nose now. That's great. Well, we are very much about, pets and petting and having, reinforcement from the animal world. So I'm glad that she is there to help you. So Michelle, tell us just a little bit about how your days go, so folks will know where you're coming from in your story.
How my days go. All right. Well, currently, in addition to Pixel and I getting up and running around and having a good time together, what I get to do for a living now, which I am, nobody can plan for this, but evidently I've spent my whole life preparing for this.
I get it.
Because people come to me from all over the world to help them discover where they're at in life and who they're going to step into becoming. Yeah. Now, what's very interesting, and I'm happy to share how I got here, but what's interesting is the on-road, or the reason that people are attracted to me, is because I am amazing at helping people find love now.
Wow.
And the system that I've discovered that works every single time. And it's what a great life to live when every day people are calling and texting and chiming in or sending videos of how grateful they are that they get to know what true love truly feels like.
Right.
And that they get to walk hand in hand, walking on air, feeling like this is their purpose, to be in a partnership with this other person that they've intentionally invited into their lives. It is the greatest cotton candy ever.
Well, every time, when I get on a show like this, with so many times, I've invited a lot of people that I've known for years. You and I go way back to about 20 minutes ago. And so what I always try to do is what can serve my audiences best. That's what goes to my mind. And so what I'd love from you is one little story about a time when you were at a crossroads, you had to make a decision. And you looked to yourself and whatever it was that you found that helped you pick that direction. And then I want you to talk about this technology that you're willing, to the extent you're willing to share, that you share with others. Yeah. And then I want you to share how they can learn more about that. Those three things.
Okay.
So first thing, tell us a story.
I'm feeling all confident going through my client list of whose story do I want to share? And then you were like, tell us about yours. And I'm like, oh, we're going deep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, or tell me a story of somebody else, but say it's you, whatever.
No. I'm a truth teller. Okay. So here's the story. And the truth, I've always dreamed. You were talking about a story of when you were 6 years old.
Yeah.
And in the green room. And, it conjures up, who was I? Where was I when I was at that age? What was I doing? And it's so interesting because I'm now doing what I've always been doing. So we finally have hit our stride, Steve. Yeah. We got there. Cheers. Really what brought me to this, when every year on our birthdays, our families would put a candle in the cake and they'd sing a song, and then you would get to make a wish, close your eyes, and blow out the candle. And when I asked people, what was your wish when you would blow out the candle on your birthday cake? Do you remember?
Some of them, yeah.
Are you going to share?
No.
All right, I'll share what other people have told me. A bike, they wanted a pony, they
Sure.
wanted all the chocolate in the world, they wanted to be crime scene investigators. So, it ranged
Yeah.
up to be a princess. All I ever wanted was to be in the best relationship ever. I
Mm.
wanted to grow up and find the man of my dreams and build a home and a family and a life together. It's all I
Right.
ever wanted.
Okay.
Well, it took a little longer than I thought because I was very particular and very specific about who I was looking for. And I was surprised by who I found that fit exactly who I was looking for. Recently, on a workshop I was doing, somebody asked me, "Do you believe in love at first sight?"
Mm-hmm.
And I will give you a resounding, profound yes. But it's easier to know when you found them if you know who you're looking for.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference because otherwise they may have walked by you. You may have passed by, you may have missed it. But when you know who you're looking for, it's very easy to discover who that is. So I found my dream come true partner. We enjoyed our romance. We supported one another. We had each other's back. We enjoyed pillow talk. We decided to welcome children into the world. We built a family together, a home together. It was perfect until he died.
Uh-huh.
And that left me, head of household, sole parent, and you guessed it, single. This was not on my schedule at all. So that's when I would say I started to visit the Crossroads Diner on a regular basis. I spent
Right.
Plenty of thought time there.
Right.
And I think all of your cast of characters you refer to, we had a lot of conversations. And I came up with a process that I think is based on my whole life experience as well as my professional experience being a portfolio manager, working as an executive in a medical publishing company, working in the Department of Medicine at Stanford.
Right.
So pulling all of this experience together, I came up with a 7-step process essentially
Okay.
to rebuild my own life
Mm-hmm.
and do the same thing for the kids.
Wow.
And it worked for us. And then a friend of mine who I used to go running with in high school went out for a run, had a heart attack, and died. I thought, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And based on the story, you know darn well, I do know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't do nothing.
No.
So I went to his widow and said, this is never going to be okay. I'm going to hold your hand and walk this journey with you. Let's project manage this thing. And I helped her rebuild her life and her kids' life. And then my community was like, go help them. And I'm like, wait, I need like 2 jobs right now. And I realized I needed to write this guide that I did not have.
Yeah.
And I was compelled to do that before I went to work for another organization. What followed was that I wrote Life Worth Living, a practical and compassionate guide to navigating widowhood and sole parenting. It became an international bestseller. People from all over the world were reaching out to me going, can you help me through this? Well,
Right.
yes, of course I will, but I need to go get a job. And everyone was saying, no, this is your job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this isn't a job. Yes, it is. It's what you've been doing all along. Okay. So now I realize I'm an author, and all of the employees who have ever worked for me, who I've recruited, hired, trained, groomed to move up into executive level positions or start their own organizations as entrepreneurs, they were like, when are you going to write the book we've been asking you to write? So that was my second book, New Management Blueprint, How to Spark Talent, Ignite Winning Teams, Creating Valuable Results. What I didn't realize is all of this is based on relationshiping. So my first book is about personal relationships.
Right.
My second book is about professional relationships. Now I realize I'm a relationship coach. Gotcha. Because the people who are coming to me for support and help are not just widows and widowers. They're not just medium to large organizations looking for me to help up-level their executives or adjust some of the culture in the organization. But there are people who are wondering, how can I be so successful professionally and personally in every aspect of my life, but somehow I am not figuring out this relationshiping thing?
Right.
So those are the people who come to me. There's my crossroads, and this is what I get to do now.
That's super. That's great. Well, and there's so much connective tissue between that and all of the things. And we all are fighting the same battle in individual ways. And it has to do, well, one of the things that you said that was very, very critical is that for me, that I recognized, was that it's a lot easier to find who you're looking for if you know who you're looking for.
Right.
And I contend also that it's a lot easier for you to be who it is that you are if you have identified who you believe you are and then lived into no, that's not it. Maybe it's this or that. Oh, it's that, but it's this way. And that you live with those nuances. You forgive the fact that you're going to evolve and grow and that you're going to become more, and that whoever you feel like you need to be now is so that you will have the foundation to be the next one that you can't even see.
Right.
And so, yeah. So we're aligned, and our language is a little bit different. But that's what Crossroad Diner is about. That's what my coaching is about, is helping you answer those questions. So give us some great examples of stuff that has lit your fire as you have stepped into their lives.
So good.
Yeah.
All right. So where do we begin? You touched upon something that's super key. And one of the things, if you're going to dive into the dating pool, for example, are you looking for someone to save you, or are you relationship ready?
Right.
And do you know what that means for you? And can you identify someone else who's relationship ready? Or could you get caught up with someone who may drag you down with them? Mm-hmm. So one of the things, as you pointed out, that's imperative is to actually understand who you are and where you're at in life. And the way that we figure this out essentially is, who did you used to be? Who are you now? And who would you like to step into becoming? And the way that we make this so key, I call it the lifeline of your relationship arc.
Okay.
And this is going to be, once you know who you are, you can start to figure out who you'd like to invite into your life based on where you're at in life. Because if you're looking for someone who would have been appropriate for you 20 years ago, you may not be in alignment. So setting the pillars, the top priorities first of the most important things. And one of the things, as you pointed out, was people sometimes misrepresent themselves. Maybe not even intentionally, but they want to be like a little bit more sparkly or fanciful or more interesting than they think they truly are. At the same time, if you can, really understand who you are and who you want to be, it's easier to have someone attracted to authentic you.
Yeah.
And boy, you can't hold up a superficial front for very long. So life is just easier and more fun when you're in a relationship with someone who actually loves who you are.
Right.
So starting out.
Let me interrupt you a second, Michelle.
Yeah,
you have to have confidence to come to that knowledge. Because in my case, I was an accommodator. I was a little kid. I had a single parent. I was trying to make sure her life wasn't horrible. And I was trying to live up to the expectations that I thought others had.
Right.
They didn't necessarily have them,
Michelle.
Michelle.
With you, Steve.
Say it again.
I need to share. One of my clients has named this faux boo, and you've alluded to the fact that you've got faux boo. It doesn't stand for anything. He just came up with it as a name for an adorable little monster that lives just outside your head. If it weren't adorable, we wouldn't let it stay, right? Mm-hmm. And evidently, faux boo is a situation where you will change your behavior based on what you think other people might be thinking.
That's it.
And you've got such a generous heart that you're a people pleaser and a giver, and you're constantly doing that. But there's a whole bunch of stuff to unwrap for givers. And givers, for example, there's a reason you're giving. You get something out of giving. So
Sure.
really putting some thought into, what are you getting out of giving? What's your expectation? Are you expecting to have someone give back to you? Are you raising them up like unconditional love giving? What is it? And to match someone with a giver, I would never put a giver with a taker.
Right.
That kind of relationship is fireworks for a very short time, and then they fizzle out, and those people just get angry with each other.
Well, one of the things that happens with a phoboist is that because they sincerely want to make connection. Connection is very, very important, and they don't think they are enough as they are because they've got those expectations, and so they don't even know who they are. They're a chameleon, in many cases. And at some point in time that will work, and basically you're playing a role, and the other person is buying that role.
Right.
And they're buying into it. And at some point you get tired. At some point you get tired of playing that role and resent that they're not accepting you for you, but you've not presented that. Correct. Right.
So you touched upon
that's the fizzle out you talked about.
Right. So you've touched upon a couple of things. If I had to give you one reason that relationships are out of alignment, it's because someone feels they are not enough, or they're made to feel they are not enough. It's the number one reason relationships don't work.
Right.
And what you're talking about, I don't know if you know anything about attachment styles, very high level. There are 4 attachment styles.
Okay.
There's anxious, secure, avoidant, and then an anxious avoidant. Secure attachers, they can handle pretty much anything. But let's talk about anxious attachers. Tend to be, and I'm going to simmer this down to the simplest terms. An anxious attacher is someone who is a giver, who will say, what could I do better? What could I have said? Could I have been thinner, prettier, richer? What could I possibly do to keep the connection? And all these gorgeous people want is connection. We're neurobiologically wired for connection.
Absolutely.
And all of these, wonderful, wonderful people, all they want or need is to know that their partner will be there for them. Oftentimes, it's a very exciting match when an anxious attacher will connect with avoidant attachers. Avoidant attachers, and this is all determined when you're very young, and you can change them if you, depending on who you're spending your time with and or through somebody who's a guide who can help you through.
Yeah.
So if you want to become more secure, there are ways to do that. But an avoidant attacher is somebody who is not willing to be vulnerable. And that is too dangerous. So they will break up with even the best relationship in the world, because that way, if they're the one who took action, they can save face and they can keep their honor and not be too vulnerable. Mm-hmm. These are people who will say, you are not enough for me. You are not, so they're outsourcing their approval and their happiness. And what happens, these people are often so gorgeous and charismatic and just so attractive that the anxious person will be so grateful that they get to be in a relationship with this charismatic person, this attractive person. And what will happen is, like I said, it's like the movie moments are amazing. And then the movie ends and you're like, what happened? What just happened? It was so good. But they're validating each other, mm-hmm. saying, the anxious person going, I'll do anything. I just want to be enough. And the avoidant will say, well, you're not enough. And it's brutal. Oh, yeah. So I always recommend they connect with a secure attachment style person.
So this sounds very, very complex. I take it that in your first book, you walk the reader through how that all stacks up, and they can find a way to identify with themselves and some of their own patterns. Is that accurate?
So the answer to that is no and yes. Ready?
Okay, that's very confusing.
actually not confusing because I'm really good at making things simple. But
Good.
the reality is, Life Worth Living is about becoming relationship ready.
Okay.
New Management Blueprint is the executive professional version of that. I have now published they're almost published, 2 new books that actually answer the request that you just had.
Oh, okay.
So Find Love Now. I actually have a picture, but the dog is sitting on it. So sorry. The dog ate my homework. Let's see if I can get it.
Yeah. I saw a
Thanks,
cartoon
Daddy.
the other day. The dog was looking at the homework going, I'm not eating that. It's not good.
So this is a little bit of a crumpled dog sat upon version
Okay.
of the cover of Find Love Now. And this is a guide to attract the right one to you.
Okay.
So this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's actually high level. It's super simple. All relationships follow the same process, from chemistry to casual to committed. And the chemistry phase, you'll recognize this because you've been in all kinds of relationships, the relationship with yourself, your inner voice, your body, money, your community, your career, all kinds of relationships. The chemistry phase, it's very exciting. It's new. You're literally getting a serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, the cuddle drug. This rush, it's like a euphoria when you get this adrenaline rush of trying something new or being connected with someone who is really exciting to you. When you move through the chemistry phase, you work into the casual phase of a relationship. And this is when we love to be able to anticipate what's going to happen next. For example, when you start dating someone and you know that you're going to get to spend time together and you know that they're a really good kisser or cuddler or whatever, you're going to look forward to that. And that's going to be like, And this casual phase of the relationship is like going to your favorite restaurant and enjoying your favorite meal. It's like watching your favorite movie or story again. It's like listening to your favorite song over and over because we can anticipate what's going to happen. And that gives us this comfort of just, oh, it's good here. Now, there's another thing that happens in the casual phase of a relationship. This is when we realize if there's a red flag deal breaker, this would be the time to leave the relationship. So if there's like, I'm sorry, this is not a good relationship to have connected to me, you disconnect. We're not a match. Or if there's a yellow flag that just needs a little bit of clarity, you might ask some open-ended questions. Or if it's a green flag go, that propels you into the committed phase of a relationship. And that's when you and your partner agree, you know what, let's go out again. This is great. And that propels you forward into the chemistry phase. So it becomes a spiral, this relationship spiral from chemistry to casual to committed. So that's a very simple way to explain because all relationships follow that process. So really it's a matter of where are you at and if you're in alignment together in the relationship. Oftentimes what I need to do is help couples go back into the same point in the relationship. One's going 75 miles an hour, one's going 55. How do they get into the same lane? But, so that's one of the things there. So that's when you're connecting with someone.
Right. So let's tie this back to the diner metaphor for a second. Let's say the person is in the diner because it's a relationship question.
Yep.
And they're in the casual and they can't tell what color the flag is, but they just saw one go by.
Okay. Yep.
And that's why they're in the diner. They don't know if it's red or yellow. Okay. And the chemistry's got them saying, go, stay, don't do anything wrong. And another voice in them is saying, but are you here or is just the excited part of you here? What are the good questions to ask yourself when you're in this place where you can't sort, you're not intimate enough with the person that you can level at some, or it would be inappropriate to go that deep right now.
I get where
How
you're
do
at.
you sort out the real me and the real question from the party that you're in?
Super simple.
Oh,
So this
God.
is that's why people come to me.
Yeah.
Your 3 easy steps.
This is true. You're
I
going
give
to be
you
on
some
every other
fun-
week. We're going to have you on every other week, Michelle, and you're just going to say, it's super simple, you dumbass. Here's what you do.
Well, I'm not dumbass because when you're in it, it's complex.
Right.
But that's why I have become a relationship coach, because it's super simple for me to see what's going on.
To see what's going on.
So what you've described is early on in a relationship. This is a should I stay or should I go situation, right?
Right.
So there's two really important questions to ask, and they are quite different questions, but on the surface, they may sound a little similar. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Question number 1. Would you like to be in a relationship? Question number 2. Would you like to be in a relationship with this person? Very different questions.
Right.
Because sometimes we stay in something, we may, lower ourselves or our expectations or accept less than we really want to in a relationship just to stay in a relationship. The fear of what could happen if you change what's going on, your brilliant brain wants to stay alive. And it knew it kept you alive yesterday being in the relationship. Yeah. So don't change that because we got to stay alive. So what you know is a safer quantity rather than what could be out there in an unknown world. And there's terrifying, could be exciting, but what you know is safer than venturing outside your comfort zone. I can give you some examples of this. I have some favorites, but this is the one I think probably applies to what you need to hear. And then I'll tell you a favorite. So there was a couple and they came to me and I was working with the woman in this story. I know both of them at this point. And she was saying, this is the greatest relationship I've ever had. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I'm really, everything's good. Except he's pushing things to go further. And I don't know if I'm ready to go further. What do I do? She didn't want to break up with him, but what I figured out lickety-split quick was he was responding to FOBU, what he thought he should be doing from social pressures of if you've been with a person for X amount of time and if you love them this much, the next thing that should happen is obviously, this thing. And she wasn't certain that she was ready for that with him. So she wanted to be in the relationship. She wanted to be in a relationship and she wanted to be in a relationship with him, but she wasn't ready to press it to that level of commitment. He was responding to external things, and it wasn't necessarily her pushing it. It wasn't really him pushing it. It was totally external factors of what's expected at this point.
Right.
And the relationship belongs to them. It's not our decision to be pushing them one way or another. So I offered her the 3 easy steps to approach this subject in a way that would not break them up. Rather, it would bring them closer together.
Right.
And in this case, would you like to know what these 3 easy steps were?
No, we'll talk about that in a month or two. When we yes, I want to know.
Am I teasing you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're pulling my chain.
All right. So in this case, the first step is to identify what you want the outcome to be.
Right.
So start at the end. And of course, she wants them to be in a deeply loving, happy relationship. And she doesn't want to be pushed further at this moment into something she's not ready for.
Right.
So what I suggested she do is set the tone correctly. Have this conversation when it's just the two. Now, it's going to be a different 3 easy steps for every situation.
Okay.
That's where I come in. So in her situation, I said, when you're at home alone, just the two of you, and it's quiet, and there's not a lot of other stuff going on.
Right.
I said, in this case, this is not a confrontational conversation, nor is it a parallel play side-by-side conversation. This one, it's very unusual, but come up gently from behind him, snuggle in so close that you can smell him and he can smell you. He can feel you. So we're really raising the dynamics of the sensory experience here.
Mm-hmm.
She's snuggling in close. And speak softly. And just say the following words. Oftentimes I need to give scripts. Here it is. It's simple. Ready? I am very happy with our relationship exactly as it is. These were the magical words this man needed to hear. He's now responding very clearly to his partner and what her desires are. And it took all the pressure externally off of him. You can imagine what followed. It was a very good evening for them.
Yeah.
And he was having trouble sleeping before this.
Oh.
Now you can figure it out.
Sure.
And so I'm pleased because not only are they happy together, but he's getting a good night's sleep. So I'm like, good job.
Okay, so there were other steps.
And the steps really are based on, they're different based on each situation, but I'll usually simmer things down to the 3 easy steps. There was 1 week where I had 2 clients coming to me in the same week. One was a boyfriend-girlfriend situation, and the woman came to me. The other was a married couple, and the woman came to me. And in each case, they said they needed to present a potentially relationship-ending topic, and they did not want to end their relationship. And they were very different topics, but I gave each of them their 3 easy steps, and I said, if you do these, just like I said, not only will you not break up, but you're going to be having great sex tonight. So
that's a wonderful promise to be able to make.
It's a big promise, right?
It's a big ask.
With the first one, she called me the next day and she said, I did the 3 easy steps exactly like you said. We did not break up and we had the best sex ever. Thank you so much. We're happier than we've ever been. They just needed to clear the air with that clear communication. Right. And you up-level a relationship with communication, trust, and respect. Okay. Now, this other client, I did not hear back from the next day. Or the day after. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on? But she called me on the 3rd day, late in the day, and she said, I did the 3 easy steps. I did them exactly as you told me. We did not break up, but we've been having great sex for 3 days, and I couldn't call you before now. I'm like, oh my God. So it really worked.
Yeah. You know, I say often that, you know, the thing about teams, relationships, and all that, bonding and intimacy is not built through shared success. It's built through shared adversity. And it amplifies trust. A bunch of things happen when you go through hard stuff together. And often I've also found that, you know, great sex is a wonderful byproduct of all that. There was a story that I heard once upon a time. It was like the first story you told. And she said, you know, we did this, we did that, we did this. And then we had the best sex we've ever had. And the counselor said, was there any downside? She said, well, yeah, we can't go back to Tony's restaurant anymore. Michelle, this is wonderful. This is so much fun. We're going to put in the show notes how to connect with your material, how to connect with you. And thank you so much for being on the Diner and giving us these wonderful insights.
Oh, it's delightful to be here. I knew it was going to be fun. And sure enough, it's always a great visit at the Crossroads Diner. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. And on Monday, folks, John and I are back in the diner talking about steps, incremental steps to, get a really good handle on who it is that you are and what it is that you want, because everything starts there. Until next time, Steve McCurdy from Michelle Hoffmann in the Crossroad Diner.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us in the Crossroad Diner. We hope you will like and subscribe to help us build credibility and audience so that more folks who are at the point where questions are calling can get tools for helping themselves and can hear that they're not alone in their struggles. Michelle today talked about her coaching, and details for getting info on that are in the show notes. Also, I mentioned in today's show that John Burnett and I both do coaching with individuals who might need some help changing their life trajectory so they can begin to head toward their highest self. If you want info on that, send me an email at crossroaddiner@storymastermedia.com or just click on the link in the notes. If you or someone you know finds yourself in need of considering a change of course, bring them here to the Crossroad Diner, where everyone can come on in.